Hello! Hello, it's me! Where the heck have I been? You wanna know? I don't know if I'm even gonna get this video out. My internet has been absolutely schlock lately. I haven't gotten one video out. Totally ruined my Batman week. Now it's more like Batman 2 months. You know, I haven't had time to watch Batman Begins because my internet's like complete schlock. I tried uploading another video because I wanted to go off of Batman week for a while originally, and my internet has just been absolute schlock. But I want to talk not about Batman today, but another franchise I love, the Terminator. Now, the Terminator is such a great franchise, all four of them I think are solid movies. Even, 3 and 4, I mean, I admit they're not as good as 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 I still find not bad, they're not terrible. I've seen worse sequels, and they're not half bad, I mean, if you compare it to Terminator 2, like, let's say Terminator 3 to Terminator 2, yeah, but on its own movie, it's not a bad movie. Terminator 3, and even Terminator 4, But I'm going to talk a little bit about the franchise, and then I'm going to talk about another subject on the Terminator, which is the Terminator Genesys review theory. Trailer review theory. As the time I'm making this, the movie has not came out. It is February 9th, 2015, and the movie's going to come out in June of this year. I can't remember what date, and it's gonna looks good. Now I love and I'm gonna talk about my theory of the trailer, similar to how I talked about my Kylo Ren Star Wars trailer, which is getting pretty good views. Everybody seems to like that. It's my #1 watched video, but maybe this one would be too. Now Terminator Genesys and the Terminator franchise. I'll go over Terminator 1. I love the concept. And I love the look of the movie. Not much to it though. I mean, it's no Terminator 2, but it's still very good. It kind of sticks out from the other Terminator movies, and I'll tell you why. Oops, got brighter. I'll tell you why. Terminator 1 seems, whereas the other Terminator seems very science fiction action, the first Terminator feels a lot like a horror film. And like it has a body count, and he walks really slow. It's about in the year 2027. We're fighting humanity against the machines. Machines got really smart and military ability and want to take over the world from humanity. Want to kill humanity. The whole world is a complete wreck because of nuclear fallout, and the humanity is on the verge of extinction, but one soldier, one general is holding it together, and he's the leader of the human race against the machines. He is John Connor, and without him, the human race would be destroyed. And so the machines, the Terminators try to send another Terminator to in the disguise of a human in body, flesh, and tissue to the year 1984 to kill John Connor's mother and stop him from being born. And the humans also send back Kyle Reese. The two, Sarah Connor, and Kyle Reese has to protect Sarah Connor from the Terminator, while the Terminator axes off all of her friends and anybody by the name of Sarah Connor. The two, Kyle Reese and her, form a relationship and produce John Connor. And great concept of a movie. Before Terminator, there wasn't really many movies like this. Like there are now, like The Matrix. Future robots trying to take over the world from nuclear fallout. Just a lot of like The Matrix and Transformers. I have to say, I mean, I hate Transformers, but I love the Terminators. But like Transformers and Matrix and like even some Spielberg movies like Minority Report, I think, Owe It, and also iRobot, all came are like robot movies are common today. Future robot movies trying to take over the world are common today. So it seems very cliched when you watch something like the Terminator. But what makes the Terminator unique is before the Terminator, there wasn't this genre of movie didn't really exist before the Terminator. The Terminator is what brought it into the mainstream. And so great, love the concept for its time. It was very new. Now it probably seems very cliched, but back then it was like great concept. Now we get to so I give the first Terminator 3 out of 4 stars. An 80 out, about a 75 out of 100. Great story, but what comes next is Terminator 2. Now, Terminator 2 is the greatest sequel of all time. It is so much better than the first Terminator by a long shot. It is amazingly better, not just in story, but in special effects and character and in action. It's miles, in my opinion. A lot of people actually like the first one better. In my opinion, the second one is miles in front of the first one. And for its time, it was very unique. And what makes it good is it's my opinion, it's the perfect example of an action movie. It is what an action movie should be, because it's not just action overlapping story. The story actually makes the action have a purpose. We want to see these people destroy Cyberdyne and ending the war. It's pretty much about, okay, they send the two Terminators back in time. The old Terminator from the first one is reprogrammed to protect John Connor instead of exterminate him by his older self from the future. And in the past, the John Connor is a kid, and he is programmed to protect him and from another Terminator, the T-1000, which is a liquid Terminator and can blend into society much more than what Arnold Schwarzenegger's Terminator can. Now, John Connor, similar to how Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor formed a relationship, only it's not like a sexual relationship with John Connor. It's actually a father-son relationship. They form a bond together. The Terminator becomes the father that John Connor never had. And it's great to see this character development happen between these two. And the mother, at the beginning of the movie, she's insane, and then the rest of the movie, she learns to cool down. She learns to accept that she can stop it from happening and accept it what has happened in her life. It's great storytelling. She even learns that she wants to kill this one person because he's responsible pretty much for the war between the humans and the machines, because he found the old wreckage of the first Terminator from the first movie, made a design of it, and he didn't know that he was making a terrible mistake, but she's like, I gotta kill him. And she can't kill, she's gonna put a bullet in his head, but she realizes, killing, even though if I kill him, that wouldn't stop, number one, killing one person for not knowing what he did is wrong. And also that even if she does kill him, if you think about it, she doesn't really say in the movie, but if you think about it, even if she did kill him, I think she realized this, that Judgment Day would still happen because it's still in Cyberdyne Systems records. So they have to destroy the Cyberdyne system, destroy the old wreckage of the Terminator, and they have to run from the T-1000. In the end, they destroy them. The other Terminator has to go in. The good Terminator has to be destroyed also, and it's a very emotional scene because he's going to have to go into hot liquid magma. The Terminator has to go into hot liquid magma to be destroyed. And it's a sad scene because we got to see him grow as a character. We see him, say catchphrases, tell jokes, learn how to smile. He pretty much became, again, John Connor's father figure. And it's a great scene because of character development. Character development that spawns action is so much more interesting in an action movie. Michael Bay, get that in your head. Transformers blowing things up for a stupid story isn't good. I know box office brings you in, but another subject. Watch Terminator. Terminator 2 is the perfect example of a great action movie. So 4 out of 4 stars. 95 out of 100. It's one of my favorite movies. When we get to Terminator 3. Terminator 3, again, is below the second one. It's a little below it's below the first one, but it's still not terrible. It's just not as, maybe because they're doing the same story. It's kind of a hide and run movies like the first two movies were. Maybe it's starting to get a little stale. And plus, like, the characters aren't as likable or memorable. And the goal doesn't seem as important in this one as it does. And it's kind of hard to take the Terminator seriously because it kind of seems like they use them more for comic relief than they do for a serious role. Watch Terminator 3 and you probably know what I'm talking about. I like some of the action scenes, especially that scene where Arnold Schwarzenegger's on the crane and he crashes through the buildings. And again, there are some good scenes, like the new T-1000 it's an interesting choice. They have a female bad guy this time, bad girl, I should say. At the end, it's interesting because they were supposed to stop Judgment Day, but it turns out they just prevented it. It's interesting to see how they restarted again. It's kind of a plot hole paradox because the bad Terminator infects the virus to turn the machines bad. Now, if they would have stopped Judgment Day in the second movie, wouldn't that would have stopped that? Isn't that kind of a paradox? The other Terminator really shouldn't exist. It's kind of a paradox because how could something that was caused by Cyberdyne be the one that causes Cyberdyne? That would be like if in Back to the Future 3, the DeLorean that they stuck in the cave, they took it out and replaced it with the DeLorean that went back to 1885 the second time. It wouldn't work that way because it's not the original DeLorean that got him there, and so the whole world would explode. Same thing happening with this. If the Terminator from the future is the one that causes it, that couldn't work because he's in the future, and Cyberdyne is what causes it. So if she causes the thing that happens in Cyberdyne, that just, big plot hole. But I could see what they were trying to do, and it's interesting. Now James Cameron's not the director, and he actually liked the movie. It's interesting. I mean, it's good to see Arnold Schwarzenegger back, even though you can't really take him as seriously in this one as you do in the other. And I do kind of like the new John. I mean, he looks nothing like the other John Connor, and he doesn't look like the person that would grow up to be a war hero. Maybe that's the point because he's growing up in a new universe. So he's like a guy who rides a motorcycle, and he's like a person that vandalizes things. He's kind of like a homeless bum. But I kind of like the guy's performance. And even I like Arnold Schwarzenegger's performance, even though I can't take him as seriously. And I like some of the action scenes. I can't say it's terrible, but I can't say it's definitely really good. So I give it about 2.5 out of 4 stars. About maybe 65, 70. About 65 out of 100. Then we get to Terminator 4. Now, I actually like Terminator 4 because I'm glad they didn't do another hide and run story like they did with 1, 2, and 3, because it probably would have been starting to get stale, and you can't do another Terminator 2. So I'm glad they didn't do another hide and run story, and instead they actually focus on the war. that happens. It's actually a Terminator movie that focuses on the war. I actually like this one. You know, a lot of people don't like this one. A lot of people like it better than Terminator 3, but I actually think this might be blasphemy for some people. I think it's the second best in the series. It's no Terminator 2 by any means, but I like it actually a little better than the first one. I actually really like Christian Bale as John Connor. You know, he does kind of seem like the general type, and he does kind of seem more like what the kid was like in the second one than when he was in the third one. You know, you would look at the kid and you would think he would grow up to be more like Christian Bale rather than this kid in the third one. Um, it's you know, he's more of like a general warrior. He you know, again, his the girl from the other movie is in this one too, but played by a different actress. I think it's Ron Howard's daughter, again a ginger. So I guess that kind of makes it in continuity with the third one. A lot of people say, I don't think this one's in continuity with the third one. I think it is. I think it is because, you know, same. You could tell it's the same. They're trying to go for the same girl as they did in the third one. It's not the same actress, but like, you know, same red hair and kind of same personality. So actually, because of her, I guess it's in continuity with the other movies. And also, it talks about Cyberdyne. You know, the war happened, so the third one should have happened if this movie were to exist. So it is in continuity with the other movie, I guess. Um, the only thing I don't like about this movie is the look of the war. You see in the other movie, the sky is black. There's like, you know, like it looks like a war, like a nuclear bomb hit it. Like it's very like rust, like burned down buildings and skeletons and like black skies. It looks actually more like Judgment Day if the nuclear bomb hit LA. This one, it's like bright skies and like it's deserty, which I'm sure it would be deserty from a nuclear bomb, but you'd see some like remnants of old buildings. You don't see that in this one. And I don't think the sky would be that white from a nuclear fallout. It'd probably be pretty black. So a little unlogical there. But the movie, you know, I love the action. And another negative about this is Arnold Schwarzenegger's not in it, which I can see him not being in it. But how they kind of brought him back was in a cheap way, is they brought him back in CGI form to have him fight John Connor, because at the time he was still governor. So they CGI'd his younger self into the movie, which, I mean, I guess I would have rather them not have Arnold Schwarzenegger at all than to have like a cheap looking CGI reproduction of him. Just kind of looked like, and the scene seemed unnecessary, you know. I mean, yeah, he does. That's what makes him get stabbed in the chest to get the heart transplant. But that could have been another Terminator, an endoskeleton, you know. You didn't need Arnold Schwarzenegger did not need to appear in this movie any shape or form. You know, I think it would have been great just without him. And I like Sam. This is actually my favorite Sam Worthington movie. Sorry, I hate Avatar. James Cameron's. I'm not a big fan of James Cameron's last two movies, you know, Titanic and Avatar, but that's another discussion. I love Terminator 2, though, and a lot of his early works. But Sam Worthington is actually really good in this movie. He plays this person who volunteers to be turned into a Terminator. They didn't reactivate him, so he wakes up in I can't remember, it's like 30 something, and he's alive. He still remembers, but he's like, what's happening? And I really like his performance in this. He really believed that this is a guy who would go through this as being a Terminator. And at the end, he has to sacrifice his heart. Apparently, he still has a heart and brain, but he's a Terminator. I don't know how that works. But he has to give his heart to John Connor, which I don't know how it would work. in this universe because, you know, you need medicine and it needs to be a clean place. And Judgment Day, I don't know, desert doesn't really look like that clean of a place to do a heart transplant. But I don't think that's the point of the movie. To think about that is John Connor lives. He sacrificed his heart for the lives of humanity. And, you know, I really like the action. I really like the characters. I like to see Kyle Reese. The thing about the new Terminator Genesys movie is they have the bad, I mean, not the bad guy, the son from Die Hard, Good Day to Die Hard. He's like a really buff guy, you know. He doesn't really look like the person that would play Kyle Reese. The guy in this movie, you know, I'm not saying Kyle Reese should be scrawny because he was in another movie. But he was like very toned muscle. It wasn't like bodybuilder muscle, you know. And I think like the kid in this, the fourth Terminator is more suitable to play Kyle Reese than the new kid would be. A new guy. He's a kid in this one, but he's a guy in the other one. I don't know. I don't think the new one's going to be in continuity with the fourth one. I don't think. But this kid really plays the part of Kyle Reese well, I thought. So that's how I would say I give this about an 80 out of, I give this about a 3 out of 4, you know, an 80 out of 100. I recommend it, so Terminator Salvation, yeah. So now on to Terminator Genesys, the trailer. At the time of making this video, the trailer's out, and I will do a video on the movie when it comes out. I don't have much money. I can't really be talking about. The only movie I've really seen lately is American Sniper, which is another I'm going to do later. But I am going to do movie reviews of recent movies and old movies. But Terminator Genesys, the trailer looks really good. I really like the look of it. I like the look of this Judgment Day better than the Judgment Day, it's what I've seen in the trailer anyway, the Judgment Day that you saw. And I'm going to talk about the trailer before I talk about my theory, similar to my Kylo Ren theory. Terminator, you know, I really like the look of this Judgment Day better than the look that we saw in Terminator Salvation, because, you know, again, I said it looks very deserty and it's like really daylight out. Doesn't really look like a nuclear war happened. This one, it's like the look of the first 3 movies of what Judgment Day looks like. It's black, you know, the endoskeletons of the Terminators, burned down buildings, just, you know, really, you know, black skies. You know, it looks more like Judgment Day would look like in Terminator than in the previous movie. We get a new guy play John Connor. It's the guy from, I can't remember his name, but he's the guy from Rise of the Planet of the Apes and Zero Dark 30. And he plays John Connor, and Kyle Reese, again, as I said, is played by the guy from Good Day to Die Hard, the son. It looks really good. The trailer looks very, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's back. When I saw him on screen, I'm like, yes, he's back. It's not some fake digital recopy until later, but this recopy looks a lot better. They do have a digital recopy of his younger self, but this one looks a lot better than the one in Terminator Salvation. And so he has to fight his younger self, which is cool. And I like how they have gray hair. He has gray hair, so it's great to see Arnold back doing his movies, because when he was governor, you know, a lot of like stuff happened to him, and he really was more famous for his movies more than like his bodybuilding or his political career. You know, he's a great bodybuilder, and he was okay as a politician, but he's a great movie star. I wouldn't say he's like an Oscar actor, but he's definitely a memorable movie action star. And it's great to see him back, you know. I like Last Stand, and I like the jail one, Escape Plan, and I can't remember, he did another one, but this one is really good. It's good to see him back, and I think he'll do great in this one. We got a new girl playing Sarah Connor. It's the girl from Game of Thrones. I can't remember his name. I'm terrible with names, but she looks like a good choice, you know. Again, the guy who plays Kyle Reese, I don't think would suit him because, you know, he's too big. And he looks nothing like the original actor. I thought the guy in Terminator Salvation looked more like Kyle Reese. But the girl who plays Sarah Connor I think is a good choice. Um, we get a new villain. I think we're gonna have two. We're gonna have a good Terminator, and then we're gonna have the bad younger self of Arnold, and then we're gonna have another T-1000, which is an Asian guy. So in the second one, we had the redneck, kind of a redneck guy. The third one, we had a woman. This one, I guess we're gonna have an Asian guy. So all over the world, I guess. Genders, race, and so on and so forth for the T-1000. Hooray! Politics rules. Okay, but anyway, politics really do rule. No pun intended. But anyway, I think it looks great. You know, I like the trailer. I like the music. I like what we're gonna see. Now it's time for. I give the trailer a 4 out of 4 stars. I think it's a great trailer. 100 out of 100. Just the trailer. Now I'm gonna talk about my theory, fan theory on Terminator Genesys. Okay, so we see a couple shots in the movie. I don't have editing software, so I can't show you. But we see one scene of the Terminator carrying a young Sarah Connor. Oh yeah, before I start my theory video, suspense is killing you, I'm sure. Before I start my theory video, I want to tell you that we finally get to see what the time machine looks like. And all the Terminator movies, we just saw the aftermath of the time machine, you know, just the bubble of electricity. And there is an Arnold Schwarzenegger or Kyle Reese in it, or a T-1000. We finally get to see what the time machine looks like. And it's pretty much what I would think, what I thought it would always look like. I always thought this, like, what did the time machine look like? No, it's probably, you know, I pictured like this rotating thing that electrocuted you, and I'm pretty much right, this rotating round thing that electrocutes you and you go into oblivion. So I think it's cool. We finally get to see what the time machine looks like. But now onto my theory. Now, Terminator, we get to see the Terminator carrying little girl Sarah Connor. We get to see an Asian T-1000 and a tougher Sarah Connor than the other than we saw in the first movie. Now, it's not quite a remake, it's a reboot. What it is it's retelling the story of what, it's not a remake, but it's like it's telling, like it's the same story, but only different thing has happened to it, so it becomes a new story. Similar to what they did with Star Trek with the original series and the 2009 one. So you can do that with time travel. You can reboot movies, classic movies, because the continuity can switch. So we're getting rid of all the continuity of the other movies. But here's my theory. Actually, I think we're going to keep the continuity of the second movie. Know how I know? I have a theory. Okay, so time is always changing, especially in time travel movies. What if in a different timeline, the Terminator that was in the second movie accidentally gets sent back to the 50s where Sarah Connor is born? So I heard this, like, when they were in the early stages of making this movie, that they wanted it to take place in the 50s, the new Terminator, and Sarah Connor was born in the 50s. Look up Terminator 3. She was born in 57, and so if the 50s where Sarah Connor is born, and what if the Terminator from the second movie wasn't sent back to when John was killed by the T-1000, because that T-1000 also gets sent back to when Sarah Connor was a girl. So John Connor, instead of sending him back to 1991, he sends him back to 1957 to save his mother from getting whacked off by the previous T-1000, which is now an Asian guy. But it's the same one from the second movie. But again, what if he's a shapeshifter? Okay, what if instead of something that somebody would recognize him with, he shapeshifts himself into an Asian dude same Terminator T-1000 from the second movie, but also accidentally sent back to the 50s, and instead of going after young John Connor, they go after young Sarah Connor, and they fight, and the T-1000 and Arnold Schwarzenegger Terminator fight each other over Sarah Connor, little girl Sarah Connor, but little girl Sarah Connor's parents were killed by the T-1000, so Arnold Schwarzenegger, and this new continuity, doesn't have to become John Connor's father that he never had, but instead Sarah Connor's foster parents. And that's why she's not weak anymore, because the Terminator has taught her how to be tough. And even though the second movie didn't happen, because the second movie is now switched to the before the first movie when Sarah Connor is a girl, that doesn't mean that the first movie won't happen. So the new Terminator, they're still hiding from the T-1000 for years, and is now getting ready for the events that must happen. He's toughening her up for the day when she has to protect Kyle Reese from the T-1000, because he won't be expecting the T-1000, because it's a different timeline and the T-1000s don't exist yet, but the one from the future goes back to the past and exists in the past all the way to the first movie, and so she has to go rescue him from the T-1000, while Arnold Schwarzenegger has to go back to fight his younger, badder self. The Terminator ages over time because it's still human flesh, but has to go back to fight his younger, badder self. And so they're pretty much recreating the events. It's pretty much meshing together the two best ones of the in the public opinions franchise. I thought Terminator Salvation was better than the first one, but anyway, that's not the point. The two Terminator movies that is most known to the pop culture, Terminator 1 and Terminator 2, are being meshed together. So it's not just a reboot of the Terminator 1, it's also a reboot of Terminator 2, because those two Terminators weren't sent back to John Connor, but in another timeline by accident. They were sent back to Sarah Connor when she was a girl instead of John Connor when he was a boy. So it's the same events happening to them, only with Sarah Connor as a girl instead of John Connor as a boy, which leads into the first movie. So the T-1000 from the second movie, which is now shapeshifted into an Asian guy, is fighting the Terminator from the second movie also, while the Terminator from the second movie is fighting the Terminator from the first movie. With me? That's my theory. So Terminator Genesys is actually not just a reboot of the first movie, but a reboot of the second movie. It's the first and the second movie combined together. And of course, the good Terminator Arnold Schwarzenegger has to get Kyle Reese and Sarah Connor to fall in love to create John Connor, and maybe in this timeline, the Terminator still gets destroyed, but, wait a minute, that's John Connor's father figure from the second movie. Wait a minute. He still has to be destroyed, but Kyle Reese doesn't die. Kyle Reese stays alive because the Terminator sacrifices himself to save Kyle Reese, so Kyle Reese lives, and in this new timeline, Kyle Reese doesn't die, but lives happily ever after, and starts a family, with Sarah Connor, and he gets a family that is Sarah Connor and John Connor, and so Kyle Reese gets to see his son as a kid, instead of when he knew him as an old man, and John Connor finally gets to grow up with the father he never knew. And they stop Judgment Day altogether. Oh, maybe they don't, so they can make more movies. But that's my theory on Terminator Genesys. Please let me know what you think of it. Please subscribe. Please comment. Please tell me everything you think. That's my theory. I might do a Jurassic World theory. I think Jurassic World is pretty blank what the plot is. But that's my theory on Terminator Genesys. I'm going to do new schedule. I'm going to release a video every Monday night towards 11. So expect a video Monday night or Tuesday morning. Like, subscribe, comment. God bless ya. Joseph Lopez signing out.